The media is twisting the truth about the Maine lobster industry, making it sound like we're on the brink of collapse, just to try to get views on their articles.
Seafood fans, we have some bad news for you. A new report from the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission says that lobsters are now being overfished.
A new report shows the lobster population off the coast of New England is declining.
A new report says America's lobsters are being overfished off New England.
The regulatory Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission says the stock has declined by 34%.
The lobster stock in waters off New England has declined 34%.
Sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? It's a shame because it's got some of our customers worried, wondering if Maine lobster is still sustainable. In this video, I'm going to give you the full story and all the context that those news headlines left out.
Dirty creators.
Dirty. Clickbait is what it is. It's clickbait. Now you guys make fun of me when I use clickbait. That's what they're doing.
That's real cute.
It's a dirty trick. Did you see how many of them there were?
No, I actually haven't seen them.
You haven't seen any of them? You saw them, didn't you?
Bangor Daily did.
Bangor Daily, News Center, Maine. There was a bunch of them. And they're all Maine news channels. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're going to bash Maine lobster fishermen with a story that they didn't even get right? Pretty much every major news outlet around here jumped on this story about Maine lobster being overfished. And they kept running the same, pretty much copy and paste article. It was like once one of them did it, the next one got like FOMO and was afraid of missing out on a big hot story. So they just copy and pasted it and ran the same story. And before you knew it, they were all running it. And it's missing so much context and is far from the truth. So let's break it down. Let's break it down, Cody.
Break it down for them, Jake. Don't listen to that news. We got the real news.
We got the real news. And I understand some people might think this news is a little biased since it's coming from a lobster boat, but I'm not here to share news as much as I am just going to share numbers and facts directly from the meeting where this story originated. Pretty much all I'm going to share for you. Good. So this story originated at the annual ASMFC meeting. ASMFC is the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Council, or something like that. Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Council. Yeah.
I tell you what, they can come up with them.
They got some long names, yeah. Basically what the ASMFC does is manages fisheries up and down the coast, all the way from here to Florida, and they cover everything. Menhaden, striped bass, crabs, lobsters, tuna fish.
It's gotta be stressful to cover everything.
Pretty much every species. Well, actually, the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Council didn't get the story completely wrong. It was all the news articles that did. So in this meeting, they talk about, I don't even know how many species. The meeting takes place over 4 days. And over the course of the 4 days, they covered so many different species and so many different topics. And there were some pretty important big decisions and topics discussed. They cut some big quotas, made some new regulations. And there was, in the news's favor, a lot to cover from that meeting. But instead of covering all of that, what the news ran with was one sentence out of one discussion about Maine lobster. And the truth is that the sentence that they grabbed, there was no emergency, there was no panic, there wasn't even any new regulations proposed. They took what was said and took it way out of context.
All about YouTube and all those things being like clickbait and stuff. I don't think anything more clickbait
than the news. Yeah, you can't believe anything that they write. And it doesn't matter which side you're on either. All news is crooked and corrupt.
Let's shut something down. Shut the news down.
Shut them down, Cody.
We don't need that.
We don't need the news.
I mean, really, nobody really needs news.
Nope.
Everybody needs lobster.
Now you can get very in-depth. This is a deep rabbit hole of information, and that's partly why I'm a week late making this video, is I wanted to gather as much information about it as I could and make sure I had all the information straight, providing you with accurate, full context. So we're going to start right in the beginning with a quick rundown of how the fishery is actually managed, how it's sustained, and what goes on out here on the ocean. Good. So we're always referred to as lobster fishermen, and while we are fishermen, we're more farmers. Farmers would probably be a better title, except we're not growing crops. Our crop is lobsters. Similar to harvesters only harvesting their crop when it is ripe, we pretty much do the same thing. Ripe is just an analogy to the small slot size of lobsters that we're allowed to keep. We can only keep a very small slot of lobsters. Most of what we catch all year long goes back overboard, and we can only keep very few. The same way harvesters water their crop, we feed ours, and I'll show you how. And real quick, speaking of taking care of what you got, whether it's out here on the ocean or the gear that allows you to be out here, a quick thank you to Huckberry for supporting today's video. Huckberry is an awesome men's clothing. I would show you what I had on, but I got quite a few layers on, so you can't really see it. Figured I'd bring some from the closet to show you their men's wax jacket. It's an awesome, stylish, warm jacket. And of course, their Flint and Tinder hoodie, their extra tough Huckberry signature boots. Anything you could want. If you spend a lot of time outdoors or busy at work, Huckberry has what you need for men's clothing. They are actually currently running their only site-wide sale from the 12th to the 14th. So head on over, you can use the link in the description, get yourself some new clothes and get it at a discount. It's 15% off everything and you don't even need a code to get it. Just head on over, pick out what you want, check out, you'll love it. Huckberry is all about high quality gear that actually lasts. It actually gets better the more you wear it. So every fisherman has traps. Duh. Rocket scientist I am, ain't I? The way these traps are designed is a big key to how the fishery is sustained. We don't get paid unless we keep bait in these traps. So we have a bag here full of fish, and when we come out to haul our traps, our job is to make sure we're keeping bait on these at all times. Once we push it back to bottom, the lobsters can then climb in these heads, and they have an all-you-can-eat buffet right here. The small lobsters, the short lobsters, the breeding lobsters, and the oversized lobsters. Any lobster outside the slot that we're allowed to keep can climb in here and eat this bait, and we don't get paid for that. At least not immediately. That's kind of our form of watering the crops. Those small lobsters and breeding lobsters then climb to the back of the trap, as you can see back here. While he's in the trap, he has protection from all of the predators outside. These guys' biggest predators when they're small are fish, seals, halibut, ground fish, and while they're in here, those outside predators can't get to them. So not only do they have free food in the bags, but they also have protection. So it's a little sanctuary for them. As you can see in this one, these little fellows have found their way in for some protection and some food. They're going back over. They also have an escape vent, which is kind of like a filter. So once the lobsters climb to the back of the traps, if the small ones choose to climb out, they can. But if they want to stay in the traps, they can do that as well. And they just get a ride to the surface and throw them back over. So we have our trap measure, and this shows us the slot that we're allowed to keep. Anything under 3 1/4 inches, we have to let go. So this one you can see is a little too small. We measure from the eye down to the back. If it goes down over the back, that one is a little too small. So this one will go back. We'll catch him next year. Also, if they're over 5 inches, we have to let him go as well. This big one is well over 5 inches. She's closer to 6. She's a giant. So just for the oversize alone, we wouldn't be allowed to keep her. But also, she is solid full of eggs. Look at how many eggs she has. And this is one of the most important keys to how the lobster fishery is sustained. When we catch one with eggs, it's by law, we have to give the lobster a V-notch. And all the V-notch is a mark on its second flipper in on the right-hand side. And that V signifies that this lobster is capable of reproducing. Not all the females can, so it's a way of keeping track of the ones that do. This lobster now is protected to breed for the rest of her life.
Kind of like on a farm, you don't want to take...
Kind of like on a farm. You don't want to harvest the breeders, keep track of the ones that breed for you so they can continue to give you profits. Not only profits, but keep the population sustainable for next generations to come. This has been done for many generations now. So it's also, since I've been sharing this online, illegal for me to let one go without giving it a snack. Not regulated by the Marine Patrol or the Coast Guard, but you guys, I get in trouble if I let one go now without giving it a snack. But speaking of Marine Patrol and Coast Guard, they do enforce. They'll check our catch while we're out to sea. They'll check our catch back at dock. And if we get caught with a V-notch, an oversize, or a short, we get steep fines, and if you get caught with multiple violations, you'll lose your license. So they take it extremely seriously. So between the laws and the pride that we have in this sustainability being passed down through generations, we have a lot of incentive to make sure we're protecting these guys. Girls, sorry. She's going to make some babies. It's estimated these lobsters have about 10,000 eggs per pound. She's about a 6-pound lobster, so she's got like 60,000 baby lobsters she's going down to hatch out. She's not letting go of that snack. She's excited. Here she goes.
We drift a little off the bottom.
Yeah, we drifted around. You were talking too long.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. It's for a good cause.
Shorter next time.
So as you can see, just out of that one trap, the small slot that we're allowed to keep is a very small fraction of the total amount of lobsters that are in the ocean. We're constantly throwing lobsters overboard. We throw a lot more over than we keep, especially certain times a year. There's a lot of times throughout the year we're only throwing lobsters over and we're catching very few inside the slot.
There's never a time we're keeping more than we throw back.
Nope. And scientists are actually able to study the total population of the lobsters and study through reporting and catch reports how many lobsters we're keeping. They're able to keep a pretty good eye on the population of the lobsters. I'm not sure how they get, I want to figure this out, how they get a total count. They have a way to estimate the total amount of lobsters in the Gulf of Maine. I I don't know how they do that. I would like to learn more about that. But they are able to see that we are very efficient at catching that small slot. They are able to estimate that we catch a large percentage of the slot size each year. And we're able to catch a large percentage of those legal lobsters each year because of all the protective measures that are in place for the non-legal lobsters. And just like on a farm, the farmers go out, they harvest all the right crop each year. Next year, the non-right produce, and then next year, all the ones that were protected the year prior are the ones that produce the legal crop for that year. Little baby. Ow, that one bit me. These ones won't be caught for another 4 or 5 years. And that's why the V-notching is so important. It's what allows us to catch a large percentage of the legal crop each year. The more we V-notch, the more breeding females stay in the water. The more breeding females stay in the water, the more non-legal crop we have each year, and then it's a runaway effect from there. So for these reasons, it's actually extremely difficult to overfish Maine lobster the way that it's designed, because we're only really fishing for that small slot size. To truly overfish Maine lobsters, you have to go after the illegal lobsters.
I was going to say it's impossible, but I guess there are pirates.
That's why there's strict regulations protecting those illegal lobsters. Since we're already catching a large percentage of the legal lobsters each year, even if we increased effort and tried extremely hard to overfish, as long as we're doing it legally, it's extremely hard to do. It comes down to pride and the past generations doing this before us, them handing us the fishery and us feeling the responsibility to hand this fishery to the next generation and our kids. Between that and the Coast Guard and Marine Patrol enforcing it, it's extremely difficult to fish illegally. On top of that, you've got tons of fishermen up and down the coast who all follow the law. So if there's one bad egg in the group who tries to do anything shady and get an edge on the rest of the fishermen, it's not long before the rest of the crowd finds out about it. We've been doing this for a very long time. If this system and the way that it was designed was not sustainable, we would have run into problems with the lobster population long before now. Now let's elaborate on the term overfishing, which is what a lot of these news headlines got hung up on. And there's a big difference between overfished and overfishing. Overfished is when a stock or a population of species gets depleted down to a dangerous level and new regulations or new precautions need to be put in place. Overfishing is something completely different. Overfishing is more of a monitor of how much pressure the population is receiving year after year, and scientists are actually able to measure this and place a threshold and monitor how close we are to that threshold. Think of it kind of like a speed limit. If we go up to that speed limit, we're fine. Scientists are keeping track of how many lobsters are total in the ocean, and they're keeping track of how many lobsters we take out of the ocean each year. And with all of that information, they're able to set kind of like a speed limit. The speed limit is just there to keep our fishing pressure in check. Scientists have been tracking our speed or our fishing pressure for like 100 years. Over that time, our speed or our pressure has fluctuated, and we have gone above the speed limit, and we have been below it several times. As long as we are at that speed limit or below it, the scientists and the regulators are happy. If we go above that speed limit, it's fine, but if we stay above it for too long, they start to get a little concerned, and that's when discussions of new regulations and different strategies start to come into play. Am I making sense, Cody? You following me?
Yeah.
All right.
I like the analogy.
Okay. The last time we stayed above that limit for an extended period of time was back in the early 1900s. They started to get concerned back then, and that's when a lot of these regulations that are still in place today were imposed. Since then, we've stabilized. We still fluctuate up and down. There's been times where we go above the speed limit, and where that volatility comes from is hard to say. There's a lot of other natural causes in the ocean affecting the lobster population. You've got tons of things that we probably can't even begin to comprehend that are going on down there. Temperature shifts, population shifts, and just natural ocean cycles. A lot of the species in the ocean tend to run in cycles, for whatever reason, around 7 years. So, to summarize, if we go above the limit for a short period of time, it's not a big deal. We can even go above it by a decent amount, as long as we don't stay there for too long. Then we risk getting a speeding ticket. What the news is in a panic about in running all of these stories is that we are currently, as of last year, above the speed limit. Did you hear that?
Really?
We're above the speed limit.
How?
That's why they're panicking. Would you dare to take a guess how far above the speed limit we are?
I don't see how we're above the speed limit.
Because the total amount of lobsters in the ocean is lower than it was in the 2010s, which is understandable because in the 2010s, there were lobsters everywhere. You're basing it off of a historically high, record high. The most lobsters that the Gulf of Maine has ever seen, to our knowledge, was in the 2010s. We were catching So many lobsters, in fact, that a lot of times throughout the summer we weren't even able to sell them. So now, 5 years later, that peak in that large abundance of lobsters in the ocean for natural causes, temperature shifts, whatever reason, the population has shrunk.
Being back down to normal, they're actually thinking that we're below normal.
That's the hard thing. It's like if you look at a graph, historically, we're still looking really good. If you look at like a 100-year graph in the lobster population, but if you compare it to the 2010s, if you looked at it from then to now, yeah, it looks like the lobster population is on a decline. But there are still tons of lobsters in the ocean, and even the scientists and the people at ASMFC during the meeting said themselves that the lobster population in the Gulf of Maine and Georges Banks is at a healthy level. It's not at a dangerously low, it's not depleted. The amount of lobsters is healthy. The news just happened to forget to include that part. So how far above the speed limit are we, you ask? We are 0.06% above the speed limit.
That doesn't seem too bad. That should be a small fine.
We are a fraction of a percent above the speed limit. So
There's no reason to panic.
so if the speed limit were 55 miles an hour, we are going exactly 55.3 miles an hour.
I don't know what town you're in. That's enough for a ticket.
If you're writing me a ticket for going 55.3 and a 55, we're going to court. I'm sorry, but I feel like that could be radar error at that point. But no, the news went ahead and wrote us tickets. And while we don't have to pay fines for those tickets, we can feel the effect from them, because customers around the world, when they hear articles like that getting posted in masses, understandably they get concerned.
Nobody wants to be part of the problem.
All right.
Well, there isn't a problem, kids. It's all right.
What we are currently seeing in the Gulf of Maine is a natural fluctuation. Who knows due to what? Temperature changes, population shifts. It's hard to say, but it's not a crisis and there is no panic. If they were at the meeting at the ASMFC, they would have shared concern. They would have proposed new regulations. They would have done a lot of things if there was concern about overfishing the Maine lobster population, but the ASMFC did not do any of that. There was literally no concern from them. They just put it on the radar. They let the states know, hey, we're at the limit of fishing pressure. They just wanted the states to be aware. Technically, yeah, I guess we're over the limit by 0.3 miles an hour. So when the news headline saw that we were over the limit, and on paper technically overfishing, they ran with it and put it on the top headlines of all the news articles above all of the far more important things that were discussed in the ASMFC meetings, because that was the flashiest, most grabbiest, attention-grabbing headline. Clickbait, if you will. The truth is, the Maine lobster fishery is still one of the most sustainable fisheries, the most well-managed fisheries, and the tastiest fisheries on the planet. And that's not just an opinion from some biased fishermen. That's actual data backed by scientific research for decades, along with fishermen that have pride in the sustainability that's been passed down for generations. Look at that. There's a beautiful egger right there. She's already got a V-notch. Somebody gave her a V-notch prior to us. Are there environmental changes happening? Absolutely. And do we feel economic squeezes from time to time? We absolutely do. Just like in every industry on the planet, the ocean runs in cycles, and we have up years and we have down years. We always have, and I'm sure we always will. But overfishing is not what is leading to those fluctuations at the moment, and that's not opinion, that is backed by scientific data. Last one of the day! Cody, you get to go home and have a birthday. Yay! Cody's birthday today.
Woo! 19 years old.
You're doing good. Maine lobstermen are doing what we have always done, protecting the future of the fishery. So the next time you see a doom and gloom headline or article in the news,
Go ahead and ignore it.
go ahead and ignore it. Just remember this, the numbers don't lie, but sometimes the people writing the articles about the numbers don't fully understand them. Maine lobster is still sustainable, still healthy, and doing good, so I just wanted to make this video to reassure anybody with concerns that have seen the recent articles. Go ahead and go buy some Maine lobster and feel good about it, feel proud about it. I guess if catching less than 1% of the amount of lobsters they want us to catch makes us overfishers, then I suppose we're guilty. All right, last trap, we're going home, Cody.
Take me home, Daddy.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Why is the sun so low?
Time change.
Oh,
yeah, leave the clocks alone. Anything you're confused about?
no, I think you straightened it out pretty good. Here's why I'm not home yet.